Welcome back to Coins Numismatic Series, and today we're diving into a coin that most people overlook, pass around, or spin without a second thought. But what if I told you that hidden among millions of ordinary nickels is a version so rare, so elusive, that collectors will pay hundreds, even thousands of dollars just to own it? This is the story of the 1970 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, yet holds one of the most fascinating contradictions in modern numismatics. The 1970 Jefferson Nickel begins its story in a time when American coinage had already transitioned away from silver, and base metal coins dominated everyday commerce. Struck at the Denver Mint, this coin carries the small but important D mint mark, located to the right of Monticello on the reverse. With a staggering mintage of over 515 million coins, this nickel was produced in enormous quantities, making it one of the most common coins of its era. Yet, despite this abundance, the 1970 nickel holds a secret that continues to fascinate collectors to this day. At first glance, the design remains consistent with the classic Jefferson Nickel series introduced in 1938. On the obverse, we see the familiar left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust" along the left rim and "Liberty," along with the date 1970 positioned to the right. The portrait itself is clean, dignified, and emblematic of mid-20th century coin artistry, reflecting both realism and simplicity. Flip the coin over, and you are greeted by Monticello, Jefferson's historic Virginia home. The structure is centered, symmetrical, and accompanied by inscriptions reading "E pluribus unum" above and "United States of America" and 5 cents below. But here is where things start to get interesting, because the reverse of this coin holds the key to its most valuable varieties. Look closely at the steps leading up to Monticello. On most 1970 nickels, these steps appear weak, incomplete, or blurred. This was a common issue during minting, as striking the coin with enough pressure to fully define these fine details proved difficult. But in extremely rare cases, a coin was struck so sharply that all the steps, typically 5 or 6, are clearly visible and fully separated. These are known as full steps nickels, and they are the holy grail of this issue. And here's the twist. Despite over 500 million coins being produced, only a handful of 1970 nickels have ever been certified with full steps. Some reports indicate just a few examples exist at high grades, making them exceptionally rare. This is where the paradox lies. A coin that is incredibly common in general circulation becomes extraordinarily rare when found in perfect condition with full design detail. Now let's talk value, because this is where collectors really start paying attention. In circulated condition, a 1970 Jefferson Nickel is typically worth its face value, just 5 cents. Even in lightly worn condition, the value rarely exceeds a few cents more. But once you move into uncirculated grades, the value begins to climb. Coins graded around MS63 to MS65 can sell for anywhere between a few dollars up to around $30, depending on eye appeal and luster. But the real jump happens when you enter higher grades. A gem quality example in MS66 or MS67 condition can reach into the hundreds, especially if the coin exhibits strong strike quality and minimal imperfections. And then we reach the pinnacle, the full steps designation. A 1970 nickel with full steps in high mint state condition has been known to sell for over $1,000, with some estimates reaching even higher depending on grade and certification. In some valuation guides, full steps examples have been projected into the thousands, with top-tier specimens reaching $4,500 to $8,000 or more. This dramatic leap in value is what transforms this otherwise common coin into a serious collector target. But value isn't just about condition, it's also about errors. And the 1970 Jefferson Nickel, while not known for an overwhelming number of major errors, still offers several intriguing varieties that collectors actively search for. One of the most notable is the double die error. This occurs when the coin's design is impressed twice onto the die at slightly different angles, creating a visible doubling effect. On a 1970 nickel, this doubling is often seen in the inscriptions, particularly around "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." The doubling appears as a clear, raised secondary image rather than a blur, making it distinguishable under magnification. Another category includes off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly aligned during minting. These coins can show partial designs and blank areas, and their value depends heavily on how dramatic the misalignment is. The more off-center the strike, while still retaining a visible date, the more desirable it becomes. There are also wrong planchet errors, where a nickel is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. These are rare and highly collectible, often commanding significant premiums due to their unusual composition and appearance. Die cracks and cuds are also found on some examples. These appear as raised lines or blobs on the coin's surface, caused by damage to the die used in striking. While smaller die cracks may only add modest value, larger and more dramatic cuds can make a coin highly desirable among error collectors. Now let's step back and consider collector interest, because this is where the 1970 Jefferson Nickel truly shines. Unlike many rare coins that are valuable simply because of low mintage, this coin represents a challenge. It's not about finding the coin, it's about finding the right coin. Collectors often search through rolls, bags, and even pocket change in hopes of discovering a high-grade example with full steps. This hunt adds an element of excitement and accessibility to the hobby, as anyone can potentially find a valuable specimen without spending a fortune up front. The 1970 nickel is also part of the broader Jefferson Nickel series, one of the longest-running coin series in U.S. history. This gives it additional appeal for collectors building complete sets, especially those focused on high-grade or full steps examples. Within this context, the 1970 stands out as one of the most challenging dates to complete in top condition. And that challenge is exactly what drives demand. When a coin is both common and rare at the same time, it creates a unique dynamic in the market. There are plenty of coins available, but very few that meet the highest standards collectors are looking for. Another factor influencing value is grading. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC play a critical role in determining a coin's worth. A slight difference in grade can mean a significant difference in price, especially at higher levels. For example, moving from MS65 to MS67 can increase a coin's value exponentially, particularly if it also carries the full steps designation. Eye appeal also matters. Coins with strong luster, clean surfaces, and minimal marks are more desirable, even within the same grade. Toning, if attractive, can also add a premium, as collectors often appreciate unique and visually appealing specimens. So what should you look for if you think you might have a valuable 1970 Jefferson Nickel? Start by examining the condition. Look for coins that appear uncirculated, with no signs of wear on Jefferson's cheek or the high points of Monticello. Next, focus on the steps. Use a magnifying glass or loupe to check if the steps are fully defined and separated. This is the most important factor in determining whether your coin could be worth significantly more than face value. Then, inspect the coin for errors. Look closely at the lettering for signs of doubling. Check the edges for off-center strikes, and examine the surface for unusual features like die cracks or cuds. Finally, consider having the coin professionally graded if you believe it might be valuable. Certification not only confirms authenticity and grade, but also increases buyer confidence, which can lead to higher prices in the marketplace. In the end, the 1970 Jefferson Nickel is a perfect example of how numismatics transforms ordinary objects into extraordinary treasures. It's a coin that teaches us to look closer, to appreciate detail, and to understand that value isn't always obvious at first glance. Because sometimes, the most valuable coins aren't the rarest by mintage, they're the rarest by perfection. And that's what makes the 1970 Jefferson Nickel such a fascinating piece of American coinage.